Hey everyone, thanks for watching here on YouTube. If you like these deck techs, you know, liking what Commanders Brews putting out there, go down and hit subscribe. Do us a little fave. If you're loving everything and you want to help out, consider checking out our Patreon page at patreon.com/commandersbrew. But let's get to this week's deck tech. Sean, what are we dealing with?
Oh my goodness. Do you remember that show, American Gladiators?
Yeah, do I? Of course I do.
Of course you do. That's what this deck is about. This deck was started as a Boros deck that loved to attack, which all Boros decks do. But I was just frustrated at not being able to draw cards and just feeling behind once my first major volley was over. So I made it a Jeskai deck. I made it all about legendary creatures, which are the American Gladiators. And I added some counter spells. I added a little bit of card draw. And it's a great deck. It's really fun.
Great. So am I Mike Adamley and you're Larry Zonka? Is that how this is going to work?
Yeah. I'll be Larry Zonka. I'll do the Zonka Strader and draw doodles on the screen. Yeah.
Zonka Strader. Yeah, and it's good to note that we are recording this live from Universal Studios in Hollywood, California.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Great. Yeah, all right, wicked. Well, we're dealing with American Gladiators. We're talking Jeskai Legendaries. What are our commanders we're dealing with here?
I got a partner pair, Ishai Ojutai Dragon Speaker and Bruce Tarl Boorish Herder. They work great as attacking commanders, as partners, even better than I had expected.
Yeah, and Bruce Tarl kind of looks like Larry Zonka, so it actually makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Oh yeah, we got to talk about this. Is you know, we got our commanders, we got our gladiators that are in the deck ready to go. And of course, we got to suit them up because even the American Gladiators need a little bit of protection. So we put in a helmet for them, a little helm of the host. We all know this one. This is going to go great with our legendary theme. You know, we're going to be able to slap this on any of our gladiators, get multiples of them during combat. And it's going to be great. We also are going to give them a weapon when they step into the Gladiator Arena, and that's going to be Blackblade Reforged. Of course, the legendary artifact that it's cheaper to equip to legendary, so it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, there's only a couple creatures that aren't legendary, so this equips to almost everyone for 3.
Great.
So now we got the equipment, we got the commanders. Let's get to some neat moves.
Working on a
Neat
move.
I just want to cover how neat Ishai plus Bruce Tarl is as a partner combo. I hadn't actually seen it in action before. You cast Ishai first, and then when it comes back to you, Ishai is probably a 4/4, maybe a 6/6. Then you drop Bruce Tarl, give it lifelink and double strike. You're hitting someone for 8 or 12 commander damage right away. And if they don't deal with it in another turn cycle, Ishai is certainly big enough to do it, to finish the job without Bruce's help. So now Bruce can help a different creature, or they're a great combo.
Yeah, I saw you play this deck a bunch in LA, and I saw that happen. I saw Ishai come down, people casting spells willy-nilly, making this thing massive, and it just was always a problem. Like, until someone got rid of Ishai, your commander was the main problem everyone had to deal with. They had to expend resources to do so. And then the rest of the deck just took over because we used everything we could to get rid of your commander so early.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat move on that in that respect. Yeah,
just that alone. Yeah, let alone this lieutenant, which is kind of like a gladiator, but more like a gladiator's weird horse. We have Loyal Unicorn in this deck, which is great because it's going to be giving our team vigilance. And it's going to prevent all damage, hopefully, as long as we have our commanders out. But, of course, we're running partner commanders here, so it makes it even easier to get the lieutenant trigger to happen on combat. So Loyal Unicorn is a card we loved when we saw it first come out of the new commander set. And I think that's because of it does the most for the decks that it goes in. Drawing a card and all that, and all, you know, some of the stuff that the other ones do are good, but in attacking decks and Boros, like in this Jeskai deck specifically, Loyal Unicorn is one of the best creatures you can have once you've gotten a creature that wants to attack. So I love this card.
Oh, it's great. It feels so good to just be like, I'll turn everyone sideways at you. Only they're not turning sideways, and you can't hurt them back. So just block whatever's ones you can, but then take a bunch. Like, yeah.
Very sure.
Another important gladiator in the deck, another neat move is Joyra Weatherlight Captain. Whenever you cast a historic spell, we get to draw cards. This deck is mostly historics. Between our mana rocks that are artifacts and all of those legendary creatures, we're going to draw a card after most spells that we cast. I mean, we've got a lot of draw spells anyway, so those will draw us cards. The only ones that won't actively draw us cards are our extra combat spells. spells. Extra combat spells.
Spells. Yeah, no, I always forget that Joyride doesn't just do this for artifacts, that it is, in fact, historic spells, which include legendary creatures. So definitely, and this is like an auto-include in this deck. Obviously, so I don't know if you mentioned before, but we mentioned on the audio podcast that this deck used to be an Aurelia deck that you added blue, you sort of splashing blue in this deck. So the old commander, though, she's still around and she's still quite effective, perhaps even more so. Aurelia, the war leader, the Boros leader from Gatecrash. She comes in with Flying Vigilance, Haste. She gives you an additional combat phase, which is exactly what this deck wants to be doing. The reason why I kind of like her a little better, even in the 99, is once you have her in your hand, she comes out of nowhere, right? When she's your commander, obviously she's a big threat and a repetitive threat, but it's a threat that your opponents can see coming. So like as much as a surprise as haste can be when it's on the actual battlefield, it's still pretty good, but it's even better when it's coming out of nowhere. And this can truly end games when they don't, they haven't left up blockers. They don't know Aurelia is about to, come down and give you 2 combat phases. It's like, yeah. So yeah. Aurelia is a game ender.
Yeah, and then just to remind you, when Aurelia is with Bruce Tarl, that extra combat phase, Bruce can give someone double strike and lifelink the first time, and when he attacks again, he can give a different person. That first person still has double strike and lifelink.
They retain it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's bonkers, yeah.
One other thing this deck does is has a suite of spells or effects that reduce the cost of instants and sorceries by 1. I'm talking Goblin Electromancer, I'm talking Primal Amulet, I'm talking Jace's Sanctum, and I'm talking Baral, Chief of Compliance, who, I might add, is also a legendary, therefore an American Gladiator. Yeah. And so, like, they're all making our spells cost 1 less, which is good because we got all the extra draw spells, so we'll be able to just cheaply take advantage of that.
Sweet. And the things we're going to use that spell reduction for, you might be like, well, what are we doing? I thought it was like a creature deck. I thought we were attacking a lot here. This is a Boros deck. Well, yeah, it is. I mean, it's a Jeskai deck, but it's a Boros deck splashing blue. And here's what we're going to use it for. Cards like Waves of Aggression, the 5-mana Boros sorcery that says untap all creatures that attack this turn. And then there's after this main phase, an additional combat phase, followed by additional main phase with Retrace. That's very, very important because this is not just a one-time sorcery use that we're reducing the cost once. We're reducing the cost because we're casting it again and again from our graveyard. We're pitching our lands. We also run Una's Grace, which is essentially going to give our lands cycling, especially once we reduce that cost even by 1. These things become absolutely bonkers. Waves of Aggression. If you can have 2 spell reducers out there and cast this twice with a land or 2. So things get a little out of hand, and I love that. There might not be a ton of instant and sorcery spells like you would maybe want for these cards, but the fact that they're retraceable and recastable once you even just get one of them just adds so much value.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so, I mean, one of the things Boros decks want to do is attack more extra combat steps. Since we added blue, let's get a functional extra combat step by taking extra turns. And then Karn's Temporal Sundering is perfect for this deck. A, because it's less than 2 gumballs. It's 40 cents right now. And it's 6 mana for a legendary sorcery. And the drawback of having to have a legendary on board is very doable in this deck. Almost everything is legendary. So not only are we going to take an extra turn, we're going to bounce the best blocker on the enemy, or maybe there's a propaganda on the board. We're going to bounce that, and now the whole team's coming at you.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. That seems quite good.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if you're attacking in that first, you do your Karn Temporal Sundering and then you attack with a Metamai the Ageless. That's not so good for your opponent.
No, it seems unfair.
Yeah, because now Metamai is giving you an additional extra turn whenever it hits. And let's not forget that if you can get Metamai out and then have a Bruce Tarl trigger point at Metamai, that double strike is going to give you 2 extra turns. Metamai can't attack during those turns, but I mean, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, Metamai can attack during extra combat steps of the same first turn, though.
That is very true. So Aurelia or Waves of Aggression still will be in play when it comes to Metamai.
Amazing. Yeah, and we've got one honorable mention, one challenger from the first season who won the game and became an American Gladiator, but does not have legendary status. It's Angelic Skirmisher. Just all those keywords, it's just amazing. Like, being able to give your whole team any one of those is great. Most likely, we're going to give our whole team vigilance on our turn and then attack with whoever can attack. And then on everyone else's turn, you probably say first strike so that they can't attack you, because you'll just gang block them and be like, okay, so I'll do 12 first strike damage to this thing. It's dead.
I think Angelic Skirmisher is a pretty underrated card in Commander. I really do. It's a card we've always talked about on the show, and maybe because, you know, we're more budget minded than most other shows, but it's just a card that has always been cheap, has always been solid though. Like this, a lot of people who have these really expensive decks, they don't even look at a card like this, and therefore they don't even know what it does. But this card gets you back into games with the lifelink. It keeps you ahead with the vigilance. It makes it very hard to attack with the first strike. Like it's really great.
Agreed.
It does a lot of work. You know what I mean? It just does a lot of good things from all different sides of the game.
Yeah.
The old quadrant theory coming into play there. Do we have a surprise or discovery here, Sean?
We do. It's a surprise. I put it in because it sounds like it makes sense in a sporty sort of American Gladiator kind of show. It's Fumble. But the surprise is actually how good it is. It started as a little bit of a themey, jokey card. I mean, bouncing a creature to its owner's hand is not worthless. That'll save your life sometimes.
Yep.
But, man, I got a Helm of the Host with this thing. Like,
yeah.
I just, like, snuck it up. And this also happens, too, sometimes. I mean, it doesn't help if your opposing creature has hexproof, so it doesn't get around Swiftfoot Boots. But I do want to point out, Lightning Greaves gives the creature Shroud. So a lot of times when there's Lightning Greaves, people will move Lightning Greaves off of a thing, then equip their cool swords, and then the last step is to put Lightning Greaves back on it. You fumble the dude right before those Lightning Greaves get back on, and you steal all those cool swords they spent all that time equipping because they had to turn their own Shroud off.
Yeah, I can confirm that after seeing Fumble get cast a couple of times, that even the average to low case scenario, like, you know, is still pretty decent. Like lowest, like you said, like worst case scenario, it just bounces something that's probably about to kill you or something, right? Which is not bad. That's not nothing. And in a pinch, you'll take it. I mean, will it win you the game? No, but but yeah, the ceiling is quite high, and I think average, you're probably going to get an equipment off of it.
Yeah.
And there's just really no way for them to get it back. It's not like it's an enchantment or something. Anyways.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Cool.
Well, now it is time for the budget report.
This is where we take all of the cards, we make them run up a ramp that's a conveyor belt going against them at top speed, and the ones that make it to the top get to go in.
They make it across the hand bike while gladiators whip tennis balls at them.
When they rebooted the show, the first part of the Eliminator was to swim under a fireball.
What?
They had to swim under this like thing that was just like they would be shooting fire above them, so if they couldn't come up on the water,
that's
they had to, like,
crazy.
They had to swim under fireballs.
That's nonsense. I wish I saw that now.
Oh my goodness.
But this deck comes in at around $123, right?
Yeah.
Not too bad, not super expensive. Most expensive card in the deck is Waves of Aggression. That's the extra attack phase sorcery that we talked about with Retrace. The second most expensive card is Erois, God of Victory. I can definitely attest to the annoyance that I felt every time I saw this on the battlefield when I played against this deck. It feels very unfair. This card is very, very powerful in a deck full of creatures that want to attack and have really good things happen when they attack. And finally, Baral, Chief of Compliance, one of those spell reducers we just talked about, giving us the loot ability with counter spells is also a little thing to talk about. But it seems like of all of these three in the budget report, maybe Baral is the one that you might be able to switch out for something.
Well, I mean, I think you can make the case for all of them. They're all excellent, but Erois Loyal Unicorn doesn't do the worst job at copying Aroas, right? It doesn't give menace, but like giving your team indestructible, sort of indestructible in combat. I mean, that's something. Vigilance.
It's great. Like it's a thing you want like a little bit of redundancy for. So I think having them both in a deck is really good.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, I put them in deck because they're great. But if you wanted to drop $25 off, you could cut all these 3 and you can get things that do similar things. It'll just be a little bit of a lower power. So if budget's your concern, we can definitely shave off. We can get this under 100 if you really want to. Yeah, if you wanted to. But as it is, I think the easiest to cut is probably Baral.
Yeah. I mean, it fits the theme really well and everything with it being a legendary creature and everything. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not that bad. Leave it in. Have fun. Speaking of fun, our favorite cards. My favorite card in this deck, I know because when I played against it, I hated it so much. It's Fumiko the Lowblood. 2 red, legendary creature, human samurai, 3/2. It's the one that has Bushido and makes everyone attack. Makes all your opponents attack. So I really didn't like it in a deck where I didn't want to attack that much, especially into Sean's large creatures. So Fumiko is going to do that, and also, of course, allow for you to attack because all of your opponent's creatures will be tapped, most likely.
Yeah, and my favorite card of the deck is Audric Lunarch Marshal.
Yes!
He's giving everyone all of those keywords. It's like Iroas has indestructible, many things have flying, Bruce Charles throwing around double strike and lifelink if you cast him, but it doesn't work on his attack trigger. But man, if you've got a boots on somebody, everyone now has like a hexproof in case that matters. Audric, it's not very hard to get 4 or 5 keywords across your whole team of people who are already incredible at attacking anyway, so just making them even better. He's amazing.
Even just with Ishai and flying, like even that alone is quite good, right?
Just
giving your whole team flying is just really good.
Yes.
Let alone, like you said, if you're getting things, getting the sequencing of things right. If you cast Bruce Tarl with Audric already on the board, you're giving your whole team, double strike and lifelink, which is also quite good.
Amazing.
Very, very solid. Well, that's the deck. Very fun one. From Gladiators Arena here in Hollywood, California. This is Micah Damley and Larry Zonka signing off. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
I will.